for Metal Jesus. So like I said, the greatest panel that you guys will hear all weekend. I present to you Radical Reggie and Metal Jesus. Give it up, guys. Here we go.
So, is this thing on? Can you guys hear me? Yeah. So first of all, I have to say thank you for coming to this panel. We knew, or I guess it was supposed to be on Friday.
Yeah.
Flying right now sucks. What should have taken me basically 3 hours to get here took me almost all day. Yeah. So, yeah, I know it kind of sucks moving panels around, but thank you so much for coming today. We appreciate
you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we kind of just wing these a little bit.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, we want to give you guys a chance to answer, like ask us any questions if you want. So I figure a lot of you guys have things to ask us. I know you want to ask us something. So,
yeah. We find that you guys create the best content really for these kind of panels, and
yes.
So that's why we like to do that. So we're just going to basically point at people and have you ask your questions, video game related, music, whatever you guys want to talk about. So
yeah.
First question.
Did you guys pick up anything?
Did we pick up anything? Come on.
It's a pickups video.
Yeah. We were just talking about this. There will be a pickups video for sure. We just recently shot 2 pickups videos.
Yeah.
So this one will probably come out in maybe October or November, something like that.
Right.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, well, today I picked up a Star Wars Episode 3 for the Game Boy Advance in box. So I was happy about that. I'm really actively looking for Game Boy stuff in box. I just really love that stuff. That's my favorite portable system of all time. So anytime I see a Game Boy game in box, I have to get it. Well, if it's a good game, not just any game, but went out and hunted for that, and yeah, that's what I got today.
So I'm going for a complete PSP collection, and that is becoming more and more challenging as it goes along because a lot of vendors don't bring PSP games because maybe not a lot of people are looking for that compared to other systems. And so I picked up I think 12 PSP games while I was here, and the titles range from kind of interesting to really not that interesting because I've already have a lot of the big hitters for that system, thankfully, and because I've been collecting since it came out pretty much.
Right.
It was only recently I decided that I want to try to complete it. And so it ranges from like licensed Disney games to like there's a poker game in there or a pool game and a couple tactics and stuff like that. So and I'm a little over 400 games, so I'm like 412 or something like that. So
and to complete the set is like 600 or something.
I think there's like 600 and something games total. Although like every system, that kind of changes a little bit because you can get into like the greatest hits versions, and then if you look at the Japanese PSP games, it gets crazy even from there. So which I'm not going for, but I will pick up some of the more interesting imports. Like Ridge Racer 2 came out. It didn't come out here. It came out in physical, like in PAL territories.
Yeah.
So that's one of them that I have as well. So
cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
I know a lot of collectors and have like just thing that they collect for. Like some people collect for like maybe greatest hits systems. What do you collect for?
When it comes to like greatest hits type games,
or just in general.
Some people collect their greatest hits, and other people just collect long box PS1 games. Like specifically, just like weird things that.
I mean, what I collect is like considered weird to everybody from what I've seen. It's like I have some really off shot stuff, but I say mostly what I like collecting that's kind of like different from what a lot of people are probably collecting here. I like collecting PAL PS1 games. I don't know if you guys saw the pickups video that was released this Friday. There's this game called Radical Bikers, and basically you play as a pizza delivery guy, racing against another one to get to the destination to deliver the pizza, and you're going through all this traffic and everything, and nobody knew that game existed. So I like going after stuff like that. I would consider that. As far as variants, I will only do that for games I really love, not really too much, but there are some times where I have like maybe 3 copies of a certain game, just because I like it that much. But yeah, that's the only time I'll ever do that. So
I tend to collect for kind of 2 separate reasons. One of them is if I think it might make a good YouTube video I might start focusing on stuff like that, like some games that might be essential for a specific console to have that I'm going to be covering or something like that. I might collect for. Then also I might just collect for myself and just kind of like Reggie. We tend to go for kind of the more weirder and obscure kind of quote unquote hidden gems kind of games, just because we love that sort of stuff. It's a passion of ours to try to hunt down those games that maybe slipped under the radar a little bit, and we do it because we love that sort of stuff. And also too, like I just mentioned the PSP, there's 600 games for that. Well, try to name 600 PSP games. I mean, it's almost impossible, right? So in there are a bunch of hidden gems, right? Or, if you look at a console like the Xbox 360 or the PlayStation 3 that maybe had 1,000 games or maybe more, there are tons of really fun, often cheap games to try to find on those systems, and we love doing that stuff for sure.
What 2 items are you jealous of in the other person's collection?
Wow. How much time do you have?
Yeah.
We'll say 2 items.
Boy, off the top of my head, I mean, I don't know if I know 2 specific items. I do know that what I love about, like, the first time that I was over at his house, and in a drawer that would normally house clothes, he's got like an amazing PlayStation 1 collection of just, because he's been collecting for so long, and it's his passion for the past 20 years. And I just remember pulling out games I'd never even seen before that you never see, and it was just full of that stuff. It was crazy. And also too, the thing I really appreciate about Reggie is that he goes for, if he's really passionate about a specific JRPG or RPG, he will almost never get like the standard edition, like his Ease collection or Star Ocean collection. It's always like the bigger, best version of it, which I think is pretty cool.
Right on. As far as something in Jason's collection, I can only think of one item, and it's actually his In Living Color for PC.
Oh,
the Clown.
That's right.
I wanted that so bad.
Oh, really?
I kept looking
That's
for it
funny.
online. But that would be the item that like I'm kind of jealous of.
Yeah, I will say that when a lot of collectors come over to my house, that many times they've already seen a lot of the console stuff, right? You see, like even here, you'll see just a ton of console stuff. What you don't see is 2 rooms full of big box PC games. That's pretty unusual, and like I don't even know. There's maybe one other collector in the Seattle area that kind of has a big box PC collection. So it is funny, like collectors will come over and they just like, oh my gosh, what is this? I've never seen this sort of stuff, and that's the thing that they seem to gravitate towards.
Is there anything in both of your collections that has a strong sentimental value? Anything that you can come up with that's like, this is family heirloom or something like that?
That's a tough one.
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so
Think about that.
in a lot of the things in my collection are things that I never thought I'd necessarily own. You know what I mean? Like again, going back to big box PC games, is that there's a lot of those that are just impossible to find now that I'm really happy to have. Specifically, a lot of that Sierra stuff, because while I was working at Sierra, it was a product. I mean, yes, they were games and we loved them, but we had stacks of them, and so over the, we just kind of, we didn't throw them away, but you didn't really appreciate it at the time. And 25 years later, a lot of those games are actually really hard to find. So, and weirder stuff like the Goblin series on the PC was so hard to find. Or we published a game called Battle Bugs, which nobody bought because it was just kind of lame. But I remember it, and so it took forever to try to find a copy of that game, and I was so happy to get it. Another game too, the very first version of Portal came out on the Commodore 64. And most people don't realize this. It's not the Portal that you're thinking of. It's a kind of a visual novel, but it's a really cool sci-fi story that came out on the Commodore 64. It also came out on the Amiga, and I loved it at the time. And trying to track down a copy of that was nearly impossible, And so that's kind of a cool thing. Also, and I can go on forever, but also I do want to mention getting every version of Hero. So Hero is a game I show, and everyone, it was one of the first games I was really passionate about. getting a complete in-box copy of that on the Atari, on the Commodore 64. I have, I think, every copy of that now, which is really cool, you know.
Now that I've thought about it, you know, I would say for me, there's two things. The test system PS2 is one of the things in my collection I cherish the most. It has so much sentimental value to me because it opened me up to a lot of import games that I would have never played. Because as you guys know, the PS2, like modding that system to where it could play games as you put them in is very difficult and annoying, like the disc swap, if you guys remember that. So finding out about that system that could play PS2 games region free was freaking awesome for me. Another item in my collection would be I have a complete in box copy of Mickey Mouse Capade for NES. I don't know if you guys remember that. That was like the first Capcom Mickey Mouse game. My dad had took me to KB Toy Stores, and I was trying to get Super Mario Brothers 2, but they were sold out. And my dad was mad, said, "Get this game instead." And I was gonna like it, but when I got it, I loved it, and I've had it ever since. So that's another one that's like sentimental to me. So I have that one. So have any of you guys played Mickey Mouse Capade? You think it's a good game, right? Like people give me a hard time about it. They say, "Oh, it's terrible," but I love it.
Yeah.
What do you guys enjoy more, playing the games or the hunt and collecting?
All right. So I'll tell you guys this: the hunt was a lot more fun in the early years. I would say I'm going to say like in the early 2010 to probably 2015 were the best times because like a lot of stuff was really cheap, you know, and you were finding stuff for good deals. You still find that stuff now, but it was so good back then, and it was almost addicting. Like I was out almost every day hunting for games, and it was the hunt, the thrill, and finding something rare and cheap. It was brilliant. But overall, you know, playing the game is the best feeling, you know, of course, because that's why you get them, you know. I don't know how people feel, you know, when it comes to like buying and reselling, but for me personally, I feel like, you know, playing the game is the best thrill you'll get, so.
Yeah, 10 years ago, man, we would go out to garage sales every weekend.
Yeah.
I loved it. I'd get up early on a Saturday morning and just hit. I had this mentality. I'm just going to turn right. Like I'm not even going to have a plan. I'm just going to go down. I'm going to turn right. I'll hit one and I'll turn. Just weave my way through all these different neighborhoods, looking for deals, and it was really fun. And yeah, that is definitely harder now because the resellers kind of. What I found over the last 5 years, I'll show up at a garage sale now, and oh yeah, somebody came by and bought everything, and then and they're just turning it around to sell it online, and I get it. That's fine. That's how it works. But the hunt is not as fun. Although I will say that, I find things to hunt for. Again, PSP. Most people don't care. And so it's great that I get to show up and kind of at these expos, and
right.
that'll be the thing I'll focus on while everybody's looking at the shiny thing that's really expensive. I'm looking for the $10 PSP games. That's really fun. Also, again, I'm a big box PC game collector. Most people don't care. Where it is really fun. Like there's a guy here today. I told him on the first day I got here, I'm like, I'll be back on Sunday if this isn't sold. I want this game. It's a little bit on the pricey side, so
right.
if it's there, it's meant to be. That said, though. Reggie and I play games all the time. People always ask us, how do you find time to play games? Well, I'm not into sports. I don't have cable television. I play games and I listen to music. That's what I do.
Yeah.
And we capture the footage for 99% of all the videos that you see on our channels. And it's part of the fun. We play games for YouTube, but also for fun. Like right now, when I'm flying down here, I have the Steam Deck. I'm playing that Stray game, which is the cat game, So much fun, Such a great game. I was so addicted to it. And so we're passionate about both for sure.
Definitely.
What's your guys' favorite special edition and special edition console as well?
Ooh,
You have more than me.
Yeah, honestly, I would say Ease 8. Locker Room, so I love that. Yeah, that was hot, man. I was so impressed with that collection. I would say that. What was your other question again? The console?
special edition console?
Not really a big console, because consoles, a lot of them are ugly to me. They're not really like special looking. Like, I don't know. I mean, can you guys name like a good looking gaming console that looks awesome?
So I'll say one of mine that I was so excited to get was the Star Wars Xbox 360.
Okay.
That had the special, but like you hear R2D2, and it's got the C-3PO controller, which you can't use because it's fingerprint magnet, but it's so cool, right?
Right.
I think for me, a special edition, I don't have nearly as many as Reggie because they take up a lot of room for sure. I was really happy to get the Horizon Forbidden Dawn, the first one, that special edition with that figure was so huge in there.
That's right.
Also, another one that just kind of came to mind. It maybe it's not as controversial now, but it was at the time. Was the Cyberpunk 2077, that big special edition that had that really cool figure in it. It's got the art book. It's just got a ton of extra crap in there, basically. But I was pretty pumped to get it. I was like, yeah, I was full on into that game when it first was being hyped. So, yeah.
Okay, cool.
If you guys could erase a game from memory and play it again, which one would you pick?
Dead by Daylight. Does anybody know what that is? Nobody knows what that game is?
Dead by Daylight.
Dead by Daylight, man. I don't know, man. You know what? I'm gonna talk too long about it if I go into it too much. So I'm gonna change the game. But a game I definitely want to erase from memory that I just would never play again is probably, honestly, Friday the 13th, the game.
So is this like a bad game that we want to erase?
A really good game that you
Oh.
wanna play fresh.
Oh, that's what y'all told. I had the question totally wrong. I'm so sorry. That's why everybody's like, oh, okay.
I mean, probably something very story-driven that had a great ending that you would want to be surprised by. Again, coming back to just Horizon Zero Dawn, that ending, actually the whole ending part of that game was so cool, how it really kind of told the story of how humanity fell and all that stuff, and then the reveal of who she actually was, I thought was really well done. I was like, man, that'd make a great TV series, Probably like story-driven games like that where, they have a great...
Yeah, my story-driven game would be Rogue Galaxy. That was a really good game, good experience. And I don't know if a lot of people know about that game. It did get a release on the PS4, but that was an action RPG. The gameplay is very similar to like Kingdom Hearts, but that's the game that I would choose, definitely.
Interesting. Yes?
So with this generation, we got two mainline all-digital consoles. If that trend continues in the future, how do you guys think that's going to impact the hobby?
I mean, I feel like my plateau for games is probably the PS5 era. After that, I'm not going to really worry too much about it because, if I want a game, I don't mind getting it digital. But there's so many games I own that I could go back and play, won't really affect me. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, that's a tricky question, right? So I just mentioned the Steam Deck. It's all digital, right? And Valve has been doing digital only on Steam for 20 years now. So on the PC market, it is the reality, and it's a bummer because getting the Steam Deck, I wasn't really a modern PC gamer. I have a lot of older PC games, obviously, but I was like, oh, cool, I'm gonna go play I was gonna on my Steam Deck get Blur or some of these 360 era games that run better on PC, and I was going to play them on the Steam Deck portably, because you can't do that on the Switch, right? And I was shocked that there's all these delisted Need for Speed games and stuff. I was just like, what? Like, that sucks. And you can kind of get on the funky parts of the web and maybe download a version of it and stuff. But that was a little bit of an eye-opener, and actually, because of that, I went out and I went to Pink Gorilla, and I was like,
we went there.
Yeah, we went there. I'm like, I'm buying Need for Speed, Carbon, Shift 2, all these Need for Speed games because they're archived on those consoles, and I can play them 20 years from now. So it's a concern. It's a bummer for sure. I will say that it's pretty cool that there are companies out there this generation that have been doing physical versions of digital games, and that you can tell the developers are excited about that too because they put all the hard work in and they want to have a archive version of their digital game, and so I don't know how long that's going to continue, but I think as consumers, as long as we continue to buy those, that they'll have the motivation of doing so, you know?
It's scary when a game gets delisted. That's where people kind of look at digital games like, it's kind of dangerous because they pull the game and you can't play it officially. So it's really, really annoying. But next question.
First, you guys welcome to the desert. And,
Appreciate it.
The
Yeah.
question is, what do you guys think about YouTubers?
About YouTube?
Making a video of a game, and then the game goes up in price.
Are you referring to anybody in particular? I mean,
I try to make it like a point not to really ever like talk about price or what I get stuff for, because if you go on YouTube and you say, hey, I got this game for super cheap, man, and I got it here at this pawn shop, or I got it at this Goodwill, everybody's gonna want that same price you got it for, and it drives them crazy. So obviously that doesn't happen. When people see a demand for a game that we talk about, or any other YouTuber talks about, it'll go up. The demand goes up because most of the games we're talking about aren't being sold in stores anymore. Unless we're talking about current generation, I would say. So if it's like a game like a PS2 game, obviously that's not being sold at a retail store like GameStop or whatnot. So secondhand seller can increase it if they want. So that's not our intention, of course. It never has been, but our intention is to bring you knowledge about games that you might like. We never want, because we're not making profit off, talking about those games that will possibly go up. So we just want to bring you guys knowledge. So and the way you get the game, I feel like if you have the money to buy it or you have a way to play it, just go by that means. Emulation or whatnot, you could do that. So.
yeah, I will say that years ago, Reggie and I, and other people on my channel, we had the same discussion. It's like, it's not really about price, because many people will play them digitally, or maybe the game is available on the eShop or something like
Right.
that. And we don't care where you play the game. If you are a physical collector and you want to have a physical copy, great. But we're much more interested in you playing the game. That especially
Yeah.
like I said, some of the games that we talk about didn't sell very well initially. And it
right.
wasn't because of something we did. It's just that's what we like digging into and finding those games that do deserve to be kind of rediscovered. And if you download them digitally or whatever, because we do, we play digital games too. I mean, my Switch is about 50-50. Stray is a game that is only available digitally, and so there will be a 8-bit physical coming.
Yes,
so
yeah.
and I pre-ordered that for that reason. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
So.
What?
What is a game that you got rid of or sold in the past that you wish you didn't?
You want to go first on this one?
Yeah,
This is a lot
yeah,
of
because
good-
I have my answer for this, and I'm still kicking myself. But so Panzer Dragoon Saga came out on the Sega Saturn, and it is supposedly a great RPG that was only designed for the Saturn, and they lost the source code, and so I guess that's the reason why they've never released it on digitally or did a HD remaster. And because it's like a 100-hour RPG, they don't really want to remake it because it'd take forever, right? So I remember going into Another Castle, which is a retro gaming store in Seattle, and they had a pristine copy of it. And he's like, and it had a $500 sticker on there. I was like, this is a couple years ago, maybe 5, something like that.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. I don't pay that much for anything, really, unless I can help it.
Yeah.
So I was like, sorry, Matt. He was like, I just got it here. You can take it now. And I passed up on it.
Yeah.
Long story short, it's like a $1,200 game now, maybe more. It's just one of those things where I regret it.
For me, I could label one game. You guys know about Potful Mill. I used to have that. Code Flying Squadron. I regret giving up my Sega CD collection pretty much. It was kind of difficult to give it up, but I kept having Sega CD. Like my Sega CD kept having problems, so I said, I don't want to deal with this anymore. So I got rid of the games. But now they're going for crazy amounts, and buying them back now, it's like it's not going to happen. But I would definitely say my Sega CD games, and mainly Code Flying Squadron, because that's like the most expensive Sega CD game out there. But there's still ways to play it, so there's that. So that's good. But
Well, you mentioned Stray a couple
Oh, Stray? Yeah, the soundtrack's fantastic. And so are you guys familiar with this? It's a newer game that came out. It's basically like a post-apocalyptic cat simulator. And
Well, quick question. Have you played it at home? At your house? Or are you playing it on like a...
So I bought the physical
Right.
on PS5, but it hasn't shipped yet. So I'm playing on Steam, and so I'm playing it on my Steam Deck.
Okay, because
Yeah.
I see a lot of videos where people are playing that game on their television, and their cats are like watching it with them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Oh
your
okay,
cat
yeah,
watching
yeah.
it with you.
That'd be hilarious. Yeah, I do have a cat, so I just started playing it actually on the flight down here, and so I'm only about like 2 hours into it or something like that. But yeah, the soundtrack's great, and the game is awesome because it's like, I mean, it's a post-apocalyptic game. But what I love about it is that the graphics are absolutely gorgeous. There's really no load time either. Like you kind of go from area to area. It's all kind of, it's very cool, and it's got all the silly cat stuff that they do. You know, it's awesome. So.
Cool.
So I know that Kenzie moved recently. Was there anything from her collection that you guys got?
I didn't.
No, I mean, did I get? Oh, yes, I did. She gave me, I think, like a. Did I get the Amiga or like one of the special edition Commodore 64s? It was one of those things where basically it didn't really make sense for her to try to sell it to a retro gaming store. I do know that she, you know, when you moved to Japan, she knew she wasn't going to have a lot of room, and so she did end up selling a lot of her collection to probably Pink Gorilla and Another Castle. Those are the two big retro gaming stores in our area. And the reason why I know that because I went in there a couple weeks afterwards. I was like, oh, I recognize that. That was Kenzie's. Yeah. But she had a crazy collection. I mean, she had stuff, you know, because she'd been thrifting. Her and Tony been thrifting the Seattle area for like 20 years. Mm-hmm. So they had like the what was the competition NES.
They had that?
Yeah, they found it at a thrift store. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's because Nintendo's up there, right? So that sort of stuff happens. But yeah, with the controllers and everything, it was crazy. So yeah.
Right on.
You didn't get anything from her, did you?
No, I didn't. So.
Yeah. Reggie lives a little bit further south, so you'd have to kind of coordinate that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What do you think on, two questions actually. What do you think on Nintendo making online only Switch games, and what do you think on them making false demand for some of their games?
False demand?
Like the 3D All-Stars collection or the English translated Fire Emblem game.
I don't keep up on that.
I don't keep on that either, so I don't really have an opinion on it. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I'd have to know more about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, but we just wanted to know how you came up with the name Metal Jesus.
Okay. It wasn't me that came up with the name Metal Jesus. It was actually a coworker. So I was working at a technology company that does real estate stuff. And anyways, and the real estate industry is pretty buttoned down. You know, it's almost kind of like they're accountants a little bit, you know, to try to be respectable or whatever. But I was this guy who came in with rocker t-shirts and shorts on and long hair. And I shared out my entire metal collection to the whole company so that they could. This is a little bit before streaming stuff, right? But I had an insane amount of like 80s butt rock, right? And anyways, and so we'd go and have these like company meetings, and I remember the CEO is a really quiet, buttoned-down dude too. And one of my coworkers called me the Metal Jesus in it, and it just kind of you could have had like a record scratch. People were like, what, you know? And it just kind of stuck, you know. I thought it was kind of cool. And when it came time to name my YouTube channel, I didn't necessarily want to have something specific for video games because I also really love music. I listen to music all the time. So I was looking for something that was kind of easy to remember and not specific to just video games. And so that's what I came up with, and it stuck. So.
Right on.
Who hasn't been called on
who
yet?
hasn't been called? You? Have you been called?
I got one for Jason and then one for the two of you.
Okay.
I'll start off with one for you. What's your favorite subgenre of metal, and why is it new metal?
Yes.
Yeah, subgenres of metal is it kind of. See, I'm old, And so I remember when metal was just metal, you know what I mean? Now all of a sudden you have grindcore, industrial, thrash, blah, 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 you know what I mean? It's like, and a new metal, of course. Why is it new metal? See, you define new metal, right? Are we all the way back to like Limp Bizkit and yeah, stuff like that? Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because my wife plays drums, in our band, and she always wants to cover "Break Stuff" by Limp Bizkit, and she knows every word. And it's funny because she's like she kind of freaks me out a little bit, because she'll just kind of she's funny because she listens to a lot of metal as well. So I like new metal, but to be honest, I'm actually really more into thrash. So like I'm really excited for the new Arch Enemy album that's going to come out, I believe next week. But I also listen to a lot of hard rock. I've been listening to a lot of a band called Dorothy, which is kind of more roots rock. There's a Swedish metal band called Reckless Love, Heat. I could talk about music all day long. So, yeah. But every Friday when my new video goes live, I go to a website called pauseandplay.com, and they list out all of the releases for that Friday. And then I just go on Apple Music and I just add them to my playlist and listen to them. So I'm pretty active in new music as well as old, for sure.
And my follow-up one with the two of you. I know the two of you are huge advocates for the Vita and how it was something that at the time may have been released just way before it would have actually catched on. Stuff with like the OLED screen, where now with the Switch it catches on. Do you think had Sony put that idea on pause and then released that alongside with the Switch to compete with it, do you think there would have been a possible future where we would have seen the handheld market for PlayStation really take off? Or was it always just destined to be new?
Well, I think it would have been able to compete if they took care of the memory card issue.
Yeah.
The memory card issue was a big thing with the Vita because, they were going to put a lot of AAA games on there. The problem was no room, basically. So
it scared a lot of people off, for sure.
It did.
Also, too, I feel like the Vita needed a video out because that's what's great about the Switch, right? Like, I mostly play the Switch docked, when I travel, of course. But if the Vita had that sort of dock thing, something like that, like they eventually added to the PSP, it just would have been, I think, a different ball game. Because then they could have added Bluetooth support, or I guess there is Bluetooth support for like a PlayStation 4 controller. It was just so close, you know what I mean? And that memory card issue, even today, it's really expensive to buy them. It's crazy.
Somebody hasn't gone. Let me see.
We get
there
the
you
dude
go.
right there.
So you talked about games that you passed over and have shot up in value. Is there anything that you have picked up and then for whatever reason the price just skyrocketed and you're glad that you got it when you did?
For me, I would say you guys probably never heard of this game. It was called Chaos Break. It was a survival horror game for PS1. I would say probably about a year after I bought it, it shot up in price, and I was so happy I got it because I think I got it for like $10. So I was like, yes, dude. But that's the game I can think of right now. Sorry, no current ones.
That's a tough one. People will message me and be like, "Hey, is this game a good price?" Or is this lot of games a good price? And the answer is I don't really pay attention to that because again, I'm not a reseller. I don't work at a store, so. Often it's just like, I'll buy a game and I think it's a good price and then it's in my collection. I don't really sell anything, So that's a really hard one for me to answer because I don't know the price of current things. I really don't. I mean, I don't really pay attention to it, to be quite honest. So, I'm always kind of living kind of here in the now when it comes to that. So I am shocked sometimes when I see some Switch games. Like there's a Snake Pass on the Switch, which I bought in a GameStop, I believe. No, or something. I forget if that's a super rare game.
Super rare.
Okay. I've had it for a long, long time, and to turn out that it's like really expensive now. I had no idea. Again, to me it's like a $30 game. Now what is it worth now? 100, 200, something?
Close to 200.
It's crazy. Yeah. The fact that any Switch game would be expensive kind of is crazy. Yeah.
Next question. Joel.
Okay, one for you and one for you. Guilty pleasures. 80s butt rock.
Okay.
No one to know you listen to, and you a video game that you don't know. You don't want people to know you play.
You don't? Oh, that he's
don't.
embarrassed by?
Yeah, like a guilty pleasure. Like
Oh.
most people hate it, but you know what?
What is that? What is that? It's like the scantily clad girls, but they're on jet skis. That's a pretty weird one.
That was the one I was going to bring up.
Okay.
That's kind of got with Jet Girls. It's a water ski, jet ski game.
And he's messaging me like, dude, this is a good game. I'm like,
You got it. You guys got to get it, man. Because like you guys remember like games like Away Praise, Splashdown. We don't really get those type of games anymore. This game came out. And I said, oh my god, we finally got another game like this out finally. So I wanted everybody to get it. I talked Joel into get it. He got it finally. Jason, did you get it?
no.
Now the game is shot up in price, so it's like, it's on PS4. Yeah, so it's a really fun game. I mean, it's a lot of cool courses. Maybe if somebody finds it here, you guys should pick it up. But it's definitely a good game. But
Now he's mad at me. Oh, did you have a? Did you just want me to talk about butt rock? Is that it? Or
No, I just
oh,
guilty pleasure. Like,
Oh.
You probably wouldn't want to admit that you listen to this band.
you know what's funny about butt rock and 80s rock is that I'm from Seattle, and I worked in a record store in the 90s when grunge was the thing. And if you guys are old enough, you remember that during that time, you had bands like Pearl Jam and Nirvana trashing on 80s metal bands, and so it was very uncool to like that music. And so for a long time, that was kind of embarrassing to admit that you like bands like Poison or Def Leppard or whatever, right? Warrant or Winger. But what's wild, I've lived long enough to see that those bands are now cool again. You know what I mean? And it's so funny because Kelsey comes over and, she's younger and she knows all the lyrics to those. I'm thinking, wow, she thinks those bands are cool. Like, I'm just saying it's kind of weird to me that it's so cyclical and now it's back to being cool. So now I'm cool again, I guess. I don't know.
okay, go ahead.
How did you guys first meet?
Okay, so we first met. I was helping a friend with a game store. This was back in 2011.
He calls it a game store.
Man,
It was a
Well,
closet.
Yeah, it was pretty.
I got to say that
Go ahead.
I love the story because I was on Craigslist and looking for retro games, and the store D-pad pops up, and it's down in Burien or whatever, kind of south of Seattle, and there's an address, I think. Maybe there wasn't. I don't remember.
There was, yeah.
I drove by it like 5 times and didn't see it. I was like, what the hell? It's like a water sewage treatment plant. I
Yeah.
was like, what the hell? What is this place?
Yeah.
And I couldn't find it. And somehow I finally just stopped and pulled
Humanity.
over, and then there was like this weird door, creaky door, and you kind of go in there, it's dark, and that was the store.
So the store was our building was next to this other office, and that was the storage. I mean, the sewage water plant. It was whatever it was. I can't remember.
Yeah.
And our store was on the other side, so it was very hard. We had this Game Boy sign on top of the store, so people would notice, know it was us. But it was very difficult. And Jason came in the store, said, "Man, I've been looking for this store. It's been like 2 weeks, and I finally found you guys." And he was like really happy he found us, and we started talking about video games immediately, and we just became friends right there, on the spot.
Yeah, Reggie and we definitely hit it off immediately. It was I don't want to say love at first sight, but but we definitely just had that kind of connection where it was just really cool to hang out with them and stuff like that. The other thing too is really cool about that store is that Emilio was the owner, his friend, and I remember, and my channel was not very big at all. But I remember I think he had a Virtual Boy in box and a collection. I hadn't really played around with it, and the really cool thing that Emilio and Reggie was like, just take it and borrow it for a while. I was like, really?
Yeah.
And so, and also like a Jaguar. I mean, a lot of stuff like that where it was just sitting on the shelves, and they're like, just take it and make a video about it, and play around with it.
I remember I gave you a disclaimer. I said, "Man, make sure you play the Virtual Boy laying down."
Yeah. He was telling me how to do it, stuff like that, and so. Yeah, it was really fun back then too. And again, it was very punk rock, their store. It was pretty cool. Yeah. Although another funny story though is that it was so kind of punk rock. I remember showing up like on a Saturday, like at noon, and they were supposed to be open at 11. And I remember nobody was there. I was just like, what? is this place closed down?
Yeah.
And another lady was there, and she was pissed. What the heck? You know, she's going off about, you know.
Yeah, this is gonna be funny. I don't think I ever told anybody this, but the store was, I think it was like going slow that day, and then me and him said, hey, let's go game hunting, and we closed the store up and left.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the customers are just like, does this place ever open? Who will, you know? It was pretty funny.
What question? Go ahead.
Sorry, I got bad social anxiety. I just wanted to say I love your guys' video.
Thank you.
They're great. I made my girlfriend come. I gotta go.
Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Awesome. God. Sorry, folks.
Oh.
Let me see here.
The hat.
There you go.
So just kind of going on what was said before about like rare games that like used to be cheap are getting more expensive as like kind of a combined model because I'm a millennial, I grew up playing Pokemon, and it's just been so weird for me to see over the years how some of the older Pokemon games, especially now from the the Nintendo DS era, like those have just really skyrocketed in price over the years. I remember when we get them new, they were like $40, but now you see some retailers they can be like 100 plus sometimes. And it's just a little sad to see like
Yeah.
people, and they're kind of hard to find. So it's sad to see like it's hard for people to play those games now, especially like the DS era. They don't have them as like a download title.
Yeah, you know, I was talking to Kelsey about this. So Kelsey owns Pink Gorilla in Seattle, and she was talking specifically about how she doesn't really like the prices for the Pokemon games either. You know, because for her, I remember her telling me that, yeah, it just seems really weird to have to price these things. However, if she doesn't, basically resellers come in and buy it all and flip it within an hour. So she's kind of stuck, you know, because, and so I don't know if necessarily really anybody likes that, you know, because she pays more for it to come in as used, and then she has to flip it, turn around, and, you know, clean up, sell it, stuff like that. So it's, I guess my point is, even for gaming stores, they're kind of like, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know?
There we go.
How do you guys mitigate room in your collection? As a collector myself, I'm always running out of space.
Right.
So are there any
Buy a new
tips-
house. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any tips and tricks you guys have for, you know, having more space, or something we can do with some of our games?
Definitely get shelving, you know, like utilize that room the best you can. You know, I started building shelves to add extra stuff to it. But the more stuff you get, I mean, honestly, the more room you're gonna need. And one of the things when I moved in my apartment, I wanted to have two rooms, one game room and one my bedroom, of course. And I did not ever want to have any of my games outside the game room, because that was the game room, keep everything in there. But now it's gotten to the point where stuff is seeping out. So it's got to get a bigger place, I would say, the more you add on. Unless you're dropping stuff off too, like selling stuff too. But you know, that's just how it goes.
Yeah, that's obviously a tough one. You know, I know for me personally, it's important for me to keep everything clean and organized. Not only just because I shoot YouTube videos down there, but also I hate clutter. And so it's funny because, yeah, people will come over and, you know, the rest of our house might be a little messy because we got dogs and stuff like that. But the game room is, I basically always tell myself I reset it to 0 after every video. So basically after every video, I go through and I reorganize stuff, I dust and things like that, just to kind of keep up on it, you know. And also too, you know, just know what your limits are, you know. That's the reason why I don't go for any complete collections, really, other than PSP. You know, not to call John Hancock out, but he's done the best with what he has, and it's insane. He has a garage stacked to the ceilings because his thing was he wanted to get all these Sega collections. And so I know what that looks like, and it's not for me, you know what I mean? I'm glad that there are John Hancocks out there who are archiving this stuff and doing it for us, right?
Yeah.
Getting all the sports titles and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's just, it's not what I would want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm glad you asked that. I use the Game Eye app. It's free. It's easy to use. Oh, perfect. Everybody should use the Game Eye app. So it's a really cool app because I ran into issues where I actually bought a game twice, and I don't want to do that unless so that's where that app really comes in for me, help me out. So.
And then I use the CLZ Games app. So it basically, I think it's like $1 a month. And so the reason why I did a video maybe like a year or two ago, kind of comparing all the two. And for me, because I do big box PC games, a lot of the free ones don't have that sort of stuff in there. And so that was one that, because I'm not sure why, but they just had a bigger catalog of some of the weirder Commodore 64 stuff that I go for. And also imports was really important for me too. The other thing is that I think probably Game Eye is like this, that they support barcodes. So basically, like, you just scan and it just very quickly adds and stuff like that. So, but yeah, there's great options out there for sure.
A lot of good options. Okay. Somebody hit. Okay, go ahead.
What would be like the top 3 retro gaming conventions you've been to, and how would this one compare?
That's hard to do. It's funny because people have asked us, like, hey, how does this convention compare to others, right? They've all asked us that, right?
I'll start off with this one. It's in my top 3. This one's my second favorite. And the reason is because Portland was the first one I went to, so I'll always have that experience. So that one's number 1. And so number 3 would be the Mo Game Con. That was a fun one. Those are my top 3 that I liked.
Yeah, again, that's really tough to answer because honestly, there aren't any bad ones. I've never been to a bad one.
Yeah, they're not bad.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell because they're put on by people who are passionate about it's not some corporation put it on. It's usually like this one's put on by John Lester, Gamester 81. And the reason why he does that is because he's got a great collection himself. He loves it. And you can see it out there, What I think is kind of interesting about this specific one that's different than others is how much art and kind of pop culture stuff is around and mixed in with it. That's something that's kind of unusual. In a lot of these expos, they'll have a little bit of that, but not as much as here. So that was kind
this one is very diverse. Definitely I agree.
Yeah, which is cool. So it brings more people in, right? And it's not just about retro games. So. As far as ranking goes, man, that's really tough. I mean, for us, Portland is, it's a special expo.
Right. Yeah.
It's also one, too, that's kind of in our backyard. We all drive down, and it's probably the biggest. It certainly in the past has been the biggest. And it's cool because they'll have, like, a museum room, stuff like that. They'll have a lot of panels, but a massive arcade section, and then a ton of vendors from around the world. Not just from the Seattle area. Right. So people will fly in from Europe with just nothing but imports, or from Japan with nothing but imports. And so you do get as a collector, it's hard to beat that one.
Right.
How do you manage to keep a consistent upload schedule? And for any upcoming YouTuber who may be feeling imposter syndrome, and what would you tell them, when there's so many greats like you guys, and why should they upload a YouTube video when you guys are in front of us?
I haven't really been consistent like I want to be. I was supposed to upload a video this weekend, and I was trying to create the thumbnail, and I just couldn't get it right, so I just kind of...
Part of it's because his phone is so damn old. I tease him about it. I'm like, Reggie, what iPhone do you have? I'm calling you out.
It's an iPhone 5.
Yeah! I know, it's hilarious, right?
I don't know.
And what's hilarious about it too, so I'm calling you out. It's because I tease him about it, right?
You got me.
It's that really small display, and he's got the brightness turned all the way down. Why? Because the battery lasts 15 minutes, and so he's always tethered to like the wall. Everywhere he goes.
What's funny? So I went to a vendor and I bought an item, and I came back and he said, "Oh, it's the guy with the small iPhone." I was like, "Dang, dude." It was funny. So at Jason's house, when we did the pickups video, I had an iPhone 6. That was better, of course, but I actually broke it while I was there, so I had to go back to the iPhone 5. So
yeah,
and it's a good phone. You guys, I know, like you guys don't notice, but I used to edit on that phone, and
like every video.
Videos. But the phone has been burnt out. It's
He's
time
still
to
not
retire
gonna get
it.
one.
I will. It is time, because I can't even keep that thing charged at this event, so it was bad. So yeah, it's time to move on.
I mean, to be fair,
Oh,
though,
man.
it is cool that you can do that. Like, you know,
Right.
it's such a disposable, like,
Yeah, that's how I
culture. It's like you use an older phone, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's how I first learned how to edit on that thing. It was
Mhm.
difficult, but I made it happen. And then when it came to editing on a computer, which was much better, I was pretty good at it. So
Yeah. So as far as like YouTube schedules and things like that, I always kind of use the YouTube is a lot of people will be like, oh, it's too late to get into YouTube. There's too much competition, blah blah blah. Which is true. However, it's like really any creative endeavor that you would do. So for instance, if you were to try to start a rock band today, and how are you going to do that? Well, there's a ton of music out there, but people still make it through. And basically it's the same principles, is that you need to learn your craft, right? So with videos, you basically just do videos. Don't worry about having the best equipment. Sometimes having less equipment is better. So for instance, with my travel videos that I do, it's all here. It's just an iPhone. Things like that. And basically just doing it over and over, kind of learning what you like and what you don't like is a big part of it. I watch a lot of other YouTube channels for that reason, not just gaming, but I also subscribe to like travel channels. That's where I got some of the ideas for the travel videos. It's like, oh, that's what they're doing there, car review channels, stuff like that. And so I watch all that stuff to get inspiration or ideas for what I might do in my videos. And then just the other thing I did too is that, I had a full-time IT job. And when I got serious about YouTube, I was like, okay, the only way I'm going to be able to do this is to tell myself it's going to be a second job. It's non-negotiable. And I also was like, every video has to be a resume. So would I be okay trying to get a video production job with that video? And if my answer was no, then no video came out. And so there was a couple times when I was working both jobs, and I would get up in the morning, or I'd wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning going, oh, there's a problem with that. I didn't do my best job. And so I'd go downstairs, sneak downstairs, do a last minute edit, and then upload it to YouTube, and then go to my job at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was not making any money, but I wanted to be the best at what I was doing, and also just try to stand out from the crowd a little bit. And so, yeah, maybe a little bit hardcore, but but it worked for me. So,
Right.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So what is your plan long term? So I know, that's stuff, but what are your ideas of what you want to do with your collections as you age and as they age?
I mean, eventually you'll have to pass it on. So probably my nephews will take it. I don't know. I never really thought too much about it. I don't know if I would sell it later on. Depends on my mindset, maybe, possibly. But as right now, I have no idea.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because like if I think about music, I really regretted selling my albums back in the day, and then all of a sudden you have to try to buy those albums, and now they're super expensive. And so same thing with video games, right? I will tell you that my game room, like even though it's like for YouTube or whatever, but I go down there and I'm just like, I love it. It's so amazing. Like I pinch myself. It's like, wow, it took years to get here, but I'm finally here. And so I have no intention of selling anything because it's for me. You know what I mean? And it's just one of those things where I feel young. I remember the first time that I still get stupid excited when I see an Atari 2600. You know what I mean? Because I'm right back there with my cousin sitting on the floor on a Saturday morning playing games like that. So that's what drives us. And so it's not about the money for sure,
Anybody else?
So we've seen like a lot of IPs that have been long forgotten about, suddenly get new entries in the series. We just got a new Mark of the Wolf game just announced today at Evo.
What? Are you serious?
Literally within the hour.
How did I know this? This is great news.
See, if your phone was updated.
Streets of Rage, TMNT, so on, so on, so on. What's one IP that you would bring back?
Oh, I know, for me.
You guys aren't going to know this game, but the Steamboat Chronicles. I love that game. PS2. I would love to see that game come. That's one of my favorite games of all time. I could talk about it forever, but yeah, that's one I would love to see come back. So that's the one I choose.
I feel like I talk about these two games all the time, but I'll mention them anyways because they came to mind. So I love the original SSX trilogy that came out on the PS2. Tricky, 3, I love those games. I still play them, again, on the Steam Deck. It's like, it's dumb, but I do it. Then also Burnout, man. It's like, come on. Like, if EA doesn't want to do it, let somebody do it. Like, give it to somebody else because the Burnout games were awesome. And so I'd love to see that.
Still thinking about Mark of the Wolves right now. Can't believe that's happening.
And they announced the new King of Fighter DLC characters too.
Oh my god, I gotta go look at this. So what time are we at right now?
You guys got 5 minutes or so.
Okay, we're gonna take some more questions. Anybody else?
How about way in the back?
Oh, I didn't even see him. Go for it.
First, I just want to say, Reggie, I feel like on DVD, me and my buddies play a lot of love-hate relationship.
With what?
Oh, Dead by Daylight, yeah.
Yeah, Dead by Daylight. My question is, how do you guys feel about funding platforms like Kickstarter for games that you guys browse these games from time to time?
Kickstarter games.
Hopefully this is answering your question. I'm not really into the Kickstarter thing anymore. I'm glad it's out there for some games, but I just don't really follow it like that, unfortunately. So I can't really answer that too much.
Yeah, I don't either. Although if someone wanted to do Burnout, that'd be cool.
Okay, yeah, that's another thing. Yeah,
I'd kick a
or Steamboat Chronicles.
Yeah. Maybe. But I've been burned a couple times on. I don't know if it was Kickstarter, Indiegogo. Just the same old story. It wasn't with games, but it was like a ZX Spectrum Vega Plus handheld thing. You give the money and it never shows up because it never gets made. So.
Right.
Definitely kind of apprehensive about that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, hopefully you answer your question.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, cool.
I think we have one more, maybe?
One more question. Let's see who's going to... No. All right, we're out of here.
Oh, okay.
Funniest things ever happened to you in your YouTube or collecting histories? Favorite funny story?
Funny story? I can't...
Something happened just the other day when we walked into Pink Gorilla. We didn't realize that Cody was live streaming.
Yeah.
And not a big deal, but it was just like all of a sudden it's like I get a message on my phone from John Riggs. He's like, chat's freaking out because you guys just walked in there, and we're like, and we didn't know. We're just like, oh, all of a sudden you realize you're on camera and like every game, it's kind of funny. Yeah.
Something recent for me too. So, oh my God, Joel, you help me with this guy. I just forgot his name. But the announcer of NBA Jam, Tim Kitzrow, we were at a restaurant together, and he gave me this shout out in the restaurant, like NBA Jam, last night. And hopefully you guys will play NBA Jam. You know the announcers, he's outrageous, he's awesome. He did a long segment talking about me like I was a basketball player going against LeBron James. And I thought that was so awesome. So that was a funny moment that happened. That was last night.
At a fancy restaurant, we're not just chilling at Denny's, dude.
Yeah. The only people were around, dude. It was
really?
crazy. Yeah. I
awesome.
wish we recorded that, man. It was so awesome. I'll never forget it. That was the moment. So.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps up our. Or do you want to do one more? Or?
All right, Joel.
Another hair metal question here.
I just want to know if there was a game that just moved you so much that you had to hold back a tear, or you did cry. It was just so moving.
Yeah, it was for me. It was Valkyrie Profile. That game is so much. It's full of death, but thankfully full of life as well. But there's a lot of sad moments in that game that brought a tear to my eye. So definitely that game.
I don't have one that's sort of like that, but I have one that truly kind of freaked me out, and that was when I played Silent Hill 3. One of the Silent Hills, because I hadn't played a Japanese horror game before, and so I didn't quite know what to expect. I remember when it transitioned slowly over to the other dimension, I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. I was just like, this is awesome, and it scared me, freaked me out, you know. It was cool.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
gonna take Cracker Jack timing, Wang. Total concentration. You ready, Jack? I was born ready. You will come out no more.
What? Huh? What'll come out no more?
You're out of your mind, Wang.
God bless you.
It's all in the reflexes.